At Liverpool's Pier Head this afternoon, thousands from all over Britain came to back the so-called People's Vote, a public say on the government's final Brexit deal, which many really see as a means to stay within the EU.
Let us ensure that the option to remain within the European Union is on the ballot paper.
And many here are heartened by Jeremy Corbyn now suggesting that if his conference backs a People's Vote this week, he'll abide by that.
Our preference would be for a general election, and we can then negotiate our future relationships with Europe. But let's see what comes out of conference. We're a democratic party. We're very big. It's the biggest conference we've ever had.
And given that, do you feel bound by what the conference decides as the leader?
Obviously, I'm there elected as a leader of this party, elected as the leader in order to bring greater democracy to this party, and that's exactly what I've been doing for the past 3 years.
And Corbyn's deputy said much the same.
Look, we've turned this party over to our members. We're the biggest party in Western Europe now. There are 500,000 of them. This is their conference, and Jeremy and I are keen that we have a proper debate on Brexit, and of course we'll respect the decisions they make at the end of the conference.
A poll commissioned by the People's Vote campaign suggests 86% of Labour members back a new referendum on the outcome of the Brexit talks.
Why are you here, madam?
To save the country from a disaster.
Why are you here? Peace. Why are you here, sir?
We need another vote on it.
Why are you here?
I don't trust the politicians. They're full of egos. They're just rubbish, basically.
Can't stand the uncertainty and the chaos. It's absolutely appalling.
We want to get Jeremy Corbyn to come off the fence and go for the People's Vote.
Organisers sense they're inching forward.
If you look where we are now compared to where we were last year, the tone and the language being used around this concept of having a people's vote and the people getting a say is really quite different. And it's very welcome. The deputy leader and the leader are clear today that our membership who want this, if that's what they want, they will get it. And I think that's welcome.
Let's be honest, you want this people's vote in order that you can remain in the EU.
Well, look, I've never made any bones about it. I don't want us to be leaving the European Union, but the whole point about the people's vote is ultimately I personally don't get to determine that. Your viewers do.
But the leader of Labour's biggest union will try to block any moves to remain.
Good afternoon, Mr. McCluskey.
Labour, he insists, shouldn't use a new public vote to overturn the Brexit referendum of 2 years ago.
The people outside clearly see that as a means to stay in the EU.
Well, unfortunately, we've already had a people's vote on that. The people voted to come out of the European Union.
And you think they should stick with that?
Well, the truth of the matter is we very, very rarely have referendums in this country. And we'll be accused of being like Bertolt Brecht, who said, if the people vote against the government, then the government should change the people. You can't do that in a democracy. But the truth of the matter is, despite coming out of the European Union, which is what the people have voted for, we can still conduct a proper negotiation with Europe, which produces something that everybody will be happy with. The only person who can do that is Corbyn, and the only party who has the policies to do it is Labour.
And getting a general election remains Labour's priority, for which they're preparing with training sessions behind the scenes, buoyed by press reports today that the Tories may hold a snap election in November. Stories dismissed as for the birds by Brexit Minister Dominic Raab.
Brexit, 149,172.
An hour ago, the Labour conference heard that delegates had voted today to make Brexit a major debate on Tuesday morning. But the wording of the motion on which they'll vote, which could determine Labour's exact position, is being thrashed out right now.
Well, the Shadow International Trade Secretary Barry Gardiner is with me now. Will conference come to an unambiguous policy on a second referendum, or will it be a fudge?
Look, I wait to see what the compositing committee comes up with, and obviously we will respect the decision of the conference because we're a democratic conference, we're a democratic party.
So it's perfectly possible that Labour could come up with a policy to remain in the EU?
Well, look, it's not about remaining in the EU, the policy would
So that is off the table?
Well, the question here is, should we be having a second referendum? Should that be part of something? At the moment, it's not our party policy to have a second referendum. What is being proposed is that it might be part of our party's policy that in certain circumstances, and that's what the compositing committee will have to determine, whether it should be part of our party policy.
Or it might be something much more sort of a fudge.
Well, I imagine that those who are putting forward their proposals will be very clear about what they want.
But the leadership isn't clear and hasn't been clear, and you quite like the fact that it's not been clear because you kind of want to have your cake and eat it.
No, look, the party policy has been very clear. We have a policy that says what we believe is the way forward. And if you look at what the difference between Strasbourg and Chequers is, you'll find that it falls very squarely into Labour Party policy. Because if you were to split the difference between there, the real question is, can we get a deal? This country is facing down the barrel of a no deal, which is a disaster for jobs, a disaster for our economy. It means that all the things that we have taken for granted, whether we're talking about medicines, whether we're talking about food supplies, whether we're talking about airplanes taking off, whether we're talking about queues at the ports, these are the things that this government's incompetence has led us to.
And staring that disaster in the face, yes, as you have been in the aftermath of Salzburg, you tweeted, wait, let me tell you, you tweeted, never interrupt your enemy when he is making a mistake.
Yes, absolutely.
That Labour failure to interrupt the enemy, as you put it, to say anything, is a dereliction of duty, isn't it?
Well, look, this is not about a personal thing. Let's focus on the real issue, okay? We have a policy, and we've had it since Jeremy made that speech in Coventry about a year ago. That policy is actually where a deal is possible. A deal is possible which says that we have a new customs union. The two issues that are stopping a deal going forward are the border and tariffs.
What is your policy on the Irish border? How would you negotiate out of the impasse that we currently have on the Irish border? What would you do?
What we have said, and this is what was in Jeremy's speech back in Coventry, we have said that there would be a new customs union between the UK and the EU.
The EU have ruled that out.
No, they haven't.
They're saying that's cherry picking.
I'm sorry, no, they haven't ruled that out, and you know that very well. They haven't ruled that out, and if you look at the difference between where Salzburg is and where Chequers are, it absolutely lies on the line of the Labour Party policy. That is what we need to be pushing on, because we cannot go to a no deal, which is exactly where the Jacob Rees-Moggs and the right wing of the Conservative Party want to drag this country.
But can you imagine any deal which passes your six tests? Any deal that Theresa May would do?
If you look at what Liz Truss...
Just answer me that. Can you imagine Theresa May coming back with any deal that passes your six tests?
If she moves, everybody's going to have to move here. Okay? The European Union will have to compromise, and she will have to compromise. Neither of them will like it.
So you're prepared to compromise too, by potentially backing a Theresa May deal in the Commons?
If you let me answer your first question, I will happily answer your second, but at least let's do it in turn. Both of them are going to have to compromise. It's going to be something that, from the European Union point of view, it would mean that we were having a co-decision-making power over any future trade agreements on goods, but only on goods, not on services. From the government's point of view, they would have to compromise because it would mean having the European Union have a say, and it would mean that we did not, in that limited area, have the capacity to negotiate free trade agreements.
But you haven't answered my question whether Theresa May could come back with a deal that you would pass your six tests.
If it meets our policy, of course it meets the six tests.
Well, Emily Thornbury said that it couldn't pass a test. Tests that, by the way, you've described as rubbish, although actually it was something rather ruder than rubbish.
Sorry. You know, it's so easy just to try and, dismiss things, when what we need to do is to have a cold analysis of what is happening in this country. We are facing the next 6 weeks looking at our country crashing out into a no-deal situation, which would be a disaster. That is why we need now to focus on the possibility of getting a compromise between the EU, where it is, and where the government is. Our policy provides a way of doing precisely that.
Barry Gardiner, thank you very much for joining us.